welcome back to the Web Marketing Adelaide podcast. This week we've got a special guest. We have Karyn Lanthois from Massive Empire Design. How are you going, Karyn?
Great, thanks for having me, Nick.
This week we're talking about WordPress. Karyn's a WordPress developer, and WordPress is a system for designing or developing websites. So let's just get started by, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself, Karyn, and about your business?
Massive Empire Design is because I love freelancing. I've actually been involved in digital technology for about 14 years. I've been building websites since about 99, badly I admit to begin with, and had a company for a while there. We made mobile games and also made a bunch of digital content, some of which is still online, ABC for instance. But in the last 3 years, I've been focusing on my passion for small business and WordPress.
Great. And your clients mostly consist of small business owners?
Yes. Small business owners and community groups is where I seem to have most of my clients at the moment.
Great. So let's get into the topic by, how about you tell us a little bit about what WordPress actually is, and what are the different aspects that sort of make up the system?
Sure. So from a very beginner's perspective, WordPress is open source blogging tool and a content management system. It's built on PHP and MySQL. Without going into it too much, PHP is a general purpose scripting language, and it's performed on the server, which is what makes it so great because it makes everything quick. And also the database end of it, MySQL, just go ahead and Google it if you want to know more about that. So it's the most popular and the largest self-hosted blogging system in the world. It did start as a blogging system, but it's definitely evolved over time to be a pretty capable full content management system. It's not just for bloggers these days. True industry heavyweights use it. For instance, Boing Boing, Icon has Cheeseburger, CNN, New York Times, TechCrunch, eBay. So you can see it's pretty powerful stuff. One thing I would like to point out is that there is quite a difference in the functionality between the WordPress.com version or the self-hosted version. And I would recommend to take the jump and to go straight into self-hosted every time, just because of the control and additional functionality. So diving right into what WordPress is made from, I guess at the very heart of it is the theme. So a theme are a set of files which determine your basic layout and functionality of your site. So the WordPress software stays the same all the time and can and should be updated regularly. However, your theme is always interchangeable. So if you decide you'd like a different look, you can just choose a new theme and not lose all the content that's there on your site. So you can use a theme for free, and this is often the best route for a first-time user. However, once you get your feet wet, it does pay to have a look at some premium themes, simply because the person that has coded that theme often spends a lot of time on a dashboard, which will be available in your administration dashboard of WordPress. It just makes it so much easier to customize things such as your header, your background colors, your fonts, the way you integrate your social media. It generally comes with some really nice image sliders, which you can see are a big feature of landing pages these days. So definitely recommend to have a look at some premium themes. It's pretty easy to find really good reviews online just by asking Google. Of course, what makes WordPress amazing are the plugins. So plugins are built by thousands of different developers worldwide. They're pretty much all available to look up on the WordPress website. It's very easy to find reviews of what's good and bad about various plugins, and they do absolutely everything. Just let your imagination run wild. So things like image galleries, forums, business directories, ways of backing up, integrating your social media, to fully fledged e-commerce shops. I'll probably talk a little bit later about plugins that I love. And then as far as the way your content is written, there's two things, pages versus posts. So we use a page when we've got very static information, things like your about page or your contact page. Pretty much everything else should be a post. You can tag and categorize your posts, but you can't do that with pages. So a page just kind of sits there, whereas a post can be manipulated, ordered, listed, categorized, you name it. It can happen to a post, but not a page. So that's probably a good starting off point there, Nick.
Great, yeah, that was a great starting off point. Let me just make a few notes on what you were saying. So, just to make it clear to my listeners, when you say open source, what does that mean exactly?
Free.
Okay, so open source is free. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't pay for WordPress. All you pay for is the hosting, which is pretty cheap to come by, and a large array of the themes and the plugins are free. The WordPress software itself is free. And obviously, everyone collaborates on the software and discuss things. There's no privacy. There's no corporate secrets.
Yeah. That's one of the most powerful things of the whole system and the community around it is that there's a lot of sharing going on, a lot of free themes and plugins, like you mentioned, and the software itself is free. So it's sort of a cheap way to get into a website, or a cheaper way to get a website started than
Absolutely
a different system. Great. And so that kind of plays into my next question, which is what makes WordPress such a good choice for a small business website?
Sure. I think I would have to say number one is ease of use. It is my preferred platform. Once you're used to the layout, it stays the same all the time. It's with every upgrade of WordPress, they do tiny tweaks to the dashboard, but it's essentially the same. And once you get the hang of it, it's a lot like using Word. So the bulk of your time, especially when you've had someone else develop the website for you and you are just simply taking care of the maintaining of the site, the bulk of your time spent writing in a notepad-like window. It auto-saves all the time, and it's pretty easy to roll back to an earlier version of your page or post. It's not too difficult. It's very easy to insert images. Of course, you need to learn one or two things about using images on the internet and not upload 1 gigabyte files, but that's just a small learning curve. So once you've gone past that, you can take charge of your own website. Don't need to call your developer all the time. The one thing I will point out, though, word of caution based on many years of experience, is writing regular updates for your website is possibly one of the hardest tasks for a business owner. I've found quite often it's quite difficult to even just extract the copy for the about page. This is really normal behaviour. Don't freak out. I always just sit down and do small amounts of writing.
Yeah, I can definitely attest to the difficulty of getting some content out onto your website. Even when you sort of you seem to have the motivation in your mind, once you sit down in front of the keyboard, it just doesn't sort of come out. So
yeah, it's very hard to talk about yourself and your own business. So even if you can find someone that you trust, a colleague or a business mentor, or even a friend, to sit down and tell you what they think your business is, I find that's a useful tool.
Great. And I'll also say that I use WordPress for all of my websites, and I use it for the website for the podcast, which is webmarketingadelaide.com.au. And I definitely can agree that it's very easy to use, and I've just been helping a client just today with their website, which is on Joomla, and comparatively Joomla is much, much more difficult to use, especially just from my perspective.
I think I agree with you, Nick. I think it's a steeper learning curve to get into Joomla, and it can be a little bit confronting for someone who's not used a content management system before. Whereas WordPress, it's just sweet to look at and easy.
Yeah, very easy. So now let's look at the dark side. We'll say, what are some of the shortcomings of WordPress?
As much as it pains me to speak badly of my beloved WordPress, it does have a couple of shortcomings.